Dolla was getting ready to leave Los Angeles. He had just finished eating at P.F. Chang's with his team, and they were heading to the airport. But right before they could leave, he saw someone he recognized, Aubrey Berry, the same guy Dolla and his crew allegedly jumped just 11 days earlier at an Atlanta nightclub on May 7, 2009, where Berry was beaten and kicked by a group of men including Dolla. They didn't speak at the table, they didn't have to. When both groups stepped out into the valet area, it only took seconds for everything to go sideways. Berry pulled out a handgun and fired 8 shots. Dolla was hit 4 times. One of those bullets went straight through his heart.
Me and my friends were sitting down having lunch at P.F. Chang's, and we were sitting down and heard these gunfires, and then everyone dove down and literally army crawling.
Berry was arrested later that same day at Lax while trying to fly back to Atlanta. Dolla never made it home.
The victim was taken to a local hospital, and that's where he died a few hours ago. Now, just a short time ago, police did arrest gunmen at LAX.
At the time, Dolla was 21. He had a single on the charts, he was signed to Akon, and he'd modeled for Diddy. But what most fans didn't know was that he'd also been living with a known LA gang member, a Mansfield gangsta crip, since he was 15. And he wasn't just affiliated.
That's my hood, Mansfield gangster.
What is that 3 for?
Actually, some gang banging.
He said it on camera, got the tattoos, made it part of his image. But LA politics don't care who co-signed you. And that day at P.F. Chang's, someone made sure Dolla paid for everything he'd claimed. Dolla wasn't from LA. He was born in Chicago, November 25, 1987, as a twin. His brother didn't survive. Then, at just 5 years old, he watched his dad take his own life in front of him and his sister.
My father died when I was 5 years old. My father died right in front of me, actually. You know what I'm saying? I'm a middle child. I got an older sister and a younger sister. I was born a twin. Twin died at birth.
After that, his mom moved them around trying to find something stable. They ended up in Decatur, Georgia, just outside Atlanta. By 10, Dolla was already hustling. He said he jumped in the streets early to help his family make ends meet. At home, it was mostly women. His mom, his 2 sisters, his uncle Nicholas, who was really into rock music. That's where Dolla got a different kind of taste, one that went beyond Atlanta trap.
My uncle Nicholas was really into rock. Guns N' Roses, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana. I love Nirvana, that's like my favorite rock band.
At 13, he was rapping. He linked up with his cousins Scrap and SAS and formed a group called the Rascals Crew. They were performing in every high school and talent show they could find in Atlanta.
I was first in a group called the Rascals, and we was a group. We did a lot of shows in Atlanta, everywhere we possibly could. We did high schools. We did showcases, we did talent shows.
Eventually, they got signed to Elektra Records. The group released one single, So Fly, but nothing came of it. The label dropped them, and the Rascals split up. But Dolla didn't stop. He got connected with Sean John and ended up modeling for Diddy. At one point, his face was on a billboard in Times Square. He also started ghostwriting and networking. That's how he reconnected with Akon, who had just launched Convict Music. Akon signed him under a joint deal with Jive Records. At the same time, things at home were still rough. His sister got arrested. That left Dolla and his mom to raise her kids. That's when he started going back and forth between Atlanta and Los Angeles. While in LA, he moved in with T-Money, a known OG from the Mansfield Gangsta Crips, and that changed everything. T-Money wasn't just a mentor, he was the one who brought Dolla around the set. Over time, Dolla started repping Mansfield publicly, he shouted them out in interviews, and got the name tattooed on his hand.
What is that 3 for?
Actually, some gang banging. That's the truth. It's some like real gang banging. That's my hood right there on my fingers.
This wasn't a marketing gimmick. He wasn't pretending to be from LA. He was living with gang members, hanging out with them every day and calling that set his own. The music was working, the street image was working, but what Dolla didn't realize was, once you tie yourself to that life in LA, you don't get to walk away clean. And someone he crossed was about to prove that. Once Dolla moved to LA, things started moving faster. He had already built relationships with people in the industry, but now he was being mentored by T-Money, someone who wasn't just in the music world. T-Money was also a known member of the Mansfield Gangsta Crips. He was rumored to be connected to serious figures in West LA. Some even claimed he was involved in the shooting of Suge Knight hit after the Tupac situation, though that was never confirmed. What is confirmed is this: T-Money introduced Dolla to the Mansfield set, and Dolla didn't just hang around. He started claiming them. He had the name tattooed on his hand, and it wasn't just for show. People around him confirmed he was active. Even after going back to Atlanta, he kept repping the Mansfield Crips. At the same time, his music career was picking up. He dropped a single called Who the F Is That, featuring T-Pain and Tay Dism. That record became his breakout. It peaked at number 82 on the Billboard Hot 100 and got him real traction. The video made it onto BET's 106 N Park, which was the biggest platform for hip-hop at the time. He followed it up with another record called Make a Toast. The label originally tried to get Lil Wayne on it. Wayne recorded a verse, but the labels couldn't clear it, so he was taken off the final version. Still, Dolla believed in the song enough to fund the music video himself.
Yeah. Alright, you live on set. Video shoot, Make a Toast, my man Dolla. Yeah, 2009. Tell the people, tell your biggest fans, tell everybody out in the world what you got going on. Your album's coming out, Dolla in a Dream, coming soon.
It ain't nothing. We out here doing this video for Make a Toast in La La Land.
It's gonna be a bananas single. It's gonna invade the radio, invade the clubs.
He was investing in himself. No major budget, no big marketing push. Just Dolla and his people pulling everything together. At that point, he also had 2 mixtapes circulating: Another Day, Another Dolla, and The Art of Seduction. Both were doing well online and in clubs. His buzz was real. And while his rap image was growing, so was the street image that followed him. He wasn't quiet about his gang ties. He mentioned Mansfield on tracks, interviews, even shouted it out during performances. And that caught attention, not just from fans or critics, but from other people in the streets. Then came a fight that would change everything. On May 7th, 2009, Dolla and his crew were at a club in Atlanta. A man named Aubrey Berry, who worked in event promotion, accidentally bumped into one of the women Dolla was with. Some say it was just a spilled drink, but either way, it turned into a fight. Berry got jumped. Dolla's people allegedly stomped him out inside the club. After that fight, Berry went online. He looked up Dolla, started reading about him, watching videos. He found clips of Dolla throwing up gang signs and admitting to fights in interviews. He saw this wasn't just a rapper. This was someone tied to a Crip set in LA, and that made Berry nervous.
I was with Cuzzo, and that's it, you know what I'm saying? And that's it. And I seen Cuz was talking that dumb. I hit him, knocked him out. He went to the hospital after that. That's pretty much it. What you gotta say, Cuz?
Mansfield mobile.
The situation in Atlanta was over, but Berry wasn't done with it. He flew to Los Angeles days later. He said it was for business, planning an after party for the BET Awards. But the timing made it clear something was still on his mind. When he walked into P.F. Chang's and saw Dolla at a table with his crew, the whole situation reignited. There was no yelling, no argument inside. But as both groups walked out, Berry waited, and then he pulled the trigger. 8 shots were fired, Dolla was hit 4 times. And just like that, the street rep that had followed him through music became the reason he didn't make it out of LA. May 18th, 2009. Dolla and his crew walked into P.F. Chang's at the Beverly Center around 2:30 in the afternoon. They were planning to then head straight to the airport to fly back to Atlanta. They didn't know that Aubrey Berry was already inside the restaurant. There was no shouting, no threats. According to reports, Dolla saw Berry as he walked toward the restroom. Berry recognized him too, but said nothing. Berry later told investigators that when he returned to his table, he got nervous. He told his business associate what was going on, and the associate suggested they leave. Berry followed that advice, but didn't go far. He stepped outside to the valet area, stood near his rental SUV, waited. A few minutes later, Dolla and his entourage left the restaurant. Berry claimed that Dolla walked toward him, that he said something like, "You in my hood now," that he reached for his waistband. That's when Berry pulled a Taurus 9mm and opened fire. 8 shots in total. Dolla was hit 4 times, once in the arm, twice in the back. One of the bullets pierced his heart. He tried to run, but collapsed after about 200 feet. Blood pooled on the concrete as his crew shouted for help.
Me and my friends were sitting down having lunch at P.F. Chang's, and we were sitting down and heard these gunfires, and then everyone dove down and literally army crawling.
Berry didn't stick around. He got in his car, drove around Dolla's body, and headed straight for Lax. Back at the scene, paramedics tried to save Dolla's life. They rushed him to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but it was already over. At just 21 years old, Dolla was pronounced dead. A few hours later, LAPD located Berry inside the Lax ticketing lobby. He didn't resist. He told officers he had a weapon. They placed him under arrest on the spot. Police also recovered the gun. Back in Atlanta, word spread fast. Fans flooded forums and blogs. Rumors were everywhere. Was it gang-related? Was it over a girl? Was it random? Nobody had answers. But what people did know was that Dolla was dead, and he didn't get shot in a club or in a street corner. He got killed in broad daylight outside one of LA's busiest shopping centers, and that made headlines everywhere. Within 24 hours, the Beverly Center had turned from a luxury shopping spot into a crime scene. Fans began showing up to the location, laying candles and posters on the curb near where Dolla had fallen. News cameras caught everything. But the streets, especially back in Atlanta, were quiet. Dolla's camp wasn't doing interviews. His family wasn't speaking publicly. Behind the scenes, the LAPD was already building their case. But Berry was building his defense too, and what started as a murder charge was about to turn into something far more complicated. After Aubrey Berry was arrested at LAX, the district attorney filed a murder charge. The LAPD recovered the gun. They had witnesses from P.F. Chang's. Surveillance footage showed Berry at the scene. But from the moment the trial began, Berry's lawyers had a strategy. Self-defense. They didn't deny he shot Dolla. That part was never in question, but they argued that Berry had a reason. According to him, he had been assaulted by Dolla's crew just 11 days earlier in Atlanta, and now, here he was, face to face with the same man again. But this time, 2,000 miles away and alone. Berry's team said he was scared, that Dolla approached him, that he thought Dolla was reaching for a weapon. That's when Berry fired. And even though police didn't find a gun on Dolla's body, the defense didn't need to prove one existed. They just had to show Berry reasonably believed he was in danger. That's when Dolla's image came into focus, and it didn't help him. Berry's attorney played old clips of Dolla talking about fights, throwing gang signs, and repping the Mansfield Gangsta Crips. One clip showed Dolla proudly flashing his hand tattoos. Another clip had him speaking directly on his gang affiliation.
What is that 3 for?
Actually, some gang banging shit. That's the truth. It's some like real gang banging shit. That's my hood right there on my fingers.
They also pulled up Dolla's own interview from the BET event where he talked about knocking out rapper 2 Pistols during an argument over a beat.
I was talking that dumb shit. I hit him, knocked him out. He went to the hospital after that.
Every piece of that persona, the street talk, the tattoos, the fights, the gang name drops, was now being used to paint a picture. That Dolla was dangerous, aggressive, and capable of violence. To Berry's legal team, that was the context. They said this wasn't a rapper trying to make it. This was someone whose reputation was built on intimidation. Someone who had already beaten Berry once. And who Berry believed was about to do it again. Dolla's family fought back. They told the court that Dolla wasn't in LA to look for a fight. He was celebrating his girlfriend's birthday. They said he was unarmed, that the shooting wasn't spontaneous, it was planned. They pushed the prosecution's claim that this was retaliation, not self-defense. But the jury didn't see it that way. The combination of the Atlanta fight, Dolla's gang image, and Berry's calm demeanor in court created doubt.
But I'm really from Atlanta. I went to school out there. I went to jail out there. I got shot out there. I done trapped out there. I lost my virginity out there. So everybody out there really know me and know that he really from these streets.
On May 22nd, 2010, a Los Angeles jury found Aubrey Berry not guilty of murder. He walked free. No prison time, no manslaughter conviction, nothing. The verdict hit hard in Atlanta. Dolla's family was devastated. His fans were confused. For most of them, this wasn't about one man shooting another. It was about a rising artist who died before he ever got a chance to fully blow up. But for the court, it came down to perception. Berry wasn't on trial for killing a Billboard model. He was on trial for killing a man who had branded himself as a gang-affiliated rapper. Someone who once said on camera that he was really out here. And in the end, that image, one Dolla had built to survive the music industry, is what the jury believed justified Berry's fear. After the verdict, everything went quiet. There was no media tour, no follow-up statement from Berry, no press conference from the LAPD. Just silence. Meanwhile, back in Atlanta, Dolla's family had already buried him. The funeral was held at the Word of Faith Love Center, where hundreds of people showed up to pay respects. Friends, fans, even strangers. Dolla's mother, Donna, stayed mostly out of the spotlight. But in private, she was still fighting. For her, this wasn't just about her son being killed. It was about how he was remembered. She watched as blogs and YouTube channels focused more on Dolla's tattoos than his lyrics. They mentioned the P.F. Chang's shooting, but barely touched on his music. And after Berry's acquittal, it felt like the industry had already moved on. Dolla's debut album, A Dolla and a Dream, was never released. Akon had signed him to Convict Music through Jive, but after the shooting, the label went quiet. No posthumous rollout, no deluxe edition, no tribute feature. The songs were recorded, but they stayed in the vault. He had been working on features with big names, not just Akon and T-Pain, but others in the Atlanta scene. He also had a third mixtape in the works, Back Like I Never Left, that never saw the light of day. And while fans created tribute pages, murals, and RIP graphics online, the music industry didn't respond the same way. There was no tribute on BET, no moment of silence at the BET Awards, no concert in his name. Just headlines fading and another artist gone too soon. Some people blamed it on how Dolla branded himself. They said his street image overshadowed everything else, that the gang signs, the interviews, the aggressive lyrics, they made it easy for the media to categorize him, not as a rising star, but as another statistic. But people who knew Dolla saw something different. He wasn't just talking tough on camera, he was taking care of his family. He was raising his sister's kids while trying to build a career. He was traveling constantly between Atlanta and LA to keep momentum going. He was trying to make something happen, and fast, because he didn't think he had time to waste. And in a way, he was right, because soon he was gone, and everything he was working toward was left unfinished. His family kept trying to push his music. They released some unreleased verses online. They tried to get the album out, but with no backing from Jive or Convict Music, it never happened. A few years later, new fans started finding Dolla's videos again, discovering his work through YouTube comments, throwback pages, or rappers who died too soon lists. But for most people, Dolla was remembered more for how he died than how he lived. He had one foot in the industry and one foot in the streets, and once the court said Barry could walk, there were no more headlines, no more updates, just a silent gap. The kind that only exists when someone was right at the edge of something bigger.
This person who made a choice to take my son away, they didn't just take my son, he ruined his life. He ruined his own life by my son.
And even now, years later, the question still stands. What would have happened if Dolla had caught that flight home? Dolla's story doesn't end with a platinum plaque or a chart-topping album. It ends in a valet lot, with headlines, with silence, with fans left wondering what could have been. He had talent, connections, and momentum, but he also had a street code that didn't leave room for mistakes. And in LA, the wrong move, or the wrong enemy, can be the last one you ever make. Anyway, that's it for the video, folks. Bye.